There we go. Welcome everyone to tonight's session with through Mona, Mothers of Northern Arlington. Fathers are invited too, since we have a mother and father team here. I think it will show up. Yeah, let's see.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah. We have a mother and father team here coming at you. So any husbands or partners or significant others, moms, anyone is invited, basically is what we're saying. And our goal tonight is to help you, give you tools and provide support for any relationship issues we're having. We are both mindfulness-based life coaches, and we work with our own sort of different groups of clients independently, and yet we're coming together tonight to bring on the fun in the middle of the coronavirus, because why not? Right?
I was going to go golfing.
Oh no. That's exactly. So anyhow, we will talk for a bit, and then let me just, like, someone has
It's nice
a microphone on. Yeah. Oh, you like that better?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
I like
easier.
looking at ourselves.
I like to know that there's people there.
Okay, there are people there. Anyhow, so do you want to tell a little about yourself?
Sure. You can tell by my accent that I wasn't born here in America. I'm from Australia. And Susie and I met in 2016. 2016, yeah, February the 10th, actually. And we've got a new participant coming in. And we worked a way that enabled us to share time together. That's not going to be on their screen, is it? Sorry, we're just working out some programming.
Yeah, just
here,
keep going.
Okay, so we worked out a way to share time together, and eventually we became husband and wife here in the States. I'm a cognitive-based life coach as well, but I tend to do other energetic or energy-based practices such as Reiki, reflexology, meditation, and breath work. So there is a slight difference between what Susie does with her clients and what I do with mine.
And briefly, what is a coach, you ask, versus a therapist? A coach is, I think I've been to therapists, and so I both serve a purpose and both have served a purpose in my life. I feel that therapy sort of brings you to a certain level, and then coaching, everyone needs a life coach, because it's just, you're constantly evolving and they bring you to that next best level. I love coaching, and I have loved what coaching's done for my life. So there we go. I am going to move us to a full screen.
That's okay. I like to put it in a manner that the therapy tells you why, and coaching tells you how to move forward. Why am I the way I am is therapy, and how do I move forward is coaching, and we combine both.
Yeah. And so tonight we're just going to be bringing you some tools. Both of us have a ongoing blog, and both of us have separate podcasts. I have the Love Your Life show, and Paul has Mindfulness Mondays. And I have written many blogs on and have done many podcasts on relationships. And so if you want any free resources, I will have them there, and I will mention a link in the, there are no show notes in the chat box afterwards. But for today, we're going to go through some top tools, because we know that you're all in the middle of COVID and having some close quarters. And we both, I guess Paul said that we met in 2016, and we obviously are not 22. So this is our second rodeo. But between us, we have 5 children. So we know what you're going through with the coronavirus. Our kids are older. Our youngest is turning 16 tomorrow, actually. Do you see on here someone's not muted? I guess they are. Our youngest is turning 16 tomorrow, and then they range up to 22. So we definitely have a full house. There are boys everywhere. Not right now. Luckily, it's quiet. So keep your fingers crossed. And we're just going to dive right into some tools that have helped us as we have been in relationships that were not thriving, that contained emotional, verbal, and sexual abuse. And
lucky us.
Yeah, and so this is why we coach. We help people who've been where we've been. These tools, I need to say at the beginning, are not for people that are in that sort of relationship. These are for you if you are in a regular relationship that is just sort of midlife. If you are in a relationship where you are suffering from physical or sexual or abuse of any nature, please reach out to, there are hotlines at this time. And if you don't know them, then contact us separately, Susie@smbwell.com. Okay, these are not tools that will put a shiny picture on the experience you're in. And we both know that firsthand. These are tools that we use every single day so that we can, as my podcast says, live a life that we love. Not every day is rainbows and daisies, and that you are fully aware of, I am sure, now in your experience at home. And we just want to give you some tools and some ideas that can help you through this time when you are maybe, especially, I think we're week 6 or 7 into this, and I have heard from people that they're looking at their significant other and it's bugging them the way they chew and the way they, wrinkle their nose. And so we've been there, and these are helpful.
I think it's fair to say that your life has been flipped upside down. You're not doing the same things you were doing. You had a system. You'd wake up in the morning and you do what you normally do, and that has been turned on its head. So these tools are designed to give you some intention in living mindfully.
Yeah.
Mindfully for yourself, understanding your own feelings, and being able to express that to your partner, and understanding that mindfulness with your partner is an equal balance. Yeah.
Yes. And one of the bonuses of this work is if you're online now, I know this is for MONA, which is Mothers of Northern Arlington, but if you're online with your significant other or whoever you're in relationship with, I like to say the beauty of a relationship is you have one person here and one person here that you can't really see. And the relationship, so this is me and this is Paul, the relationship exists between you. Okay. And so if one person shifts and makes a difference, here I am shifting, the relationship shifts. So whether your significant other is sitting next to you right now or not, I want you to feel some hope and some encouragement that you making these shifts will make a difference in the relationship. We see it happen all the time. Okay. So our first tool is probably our most important, and we are mathematicians and we call it 1 + 1 = 3. And this really is 1, meaning me, plus 1, meaning Paul, together. If I'm taking care of me and I'm taking care of my needs and I'm taking care of myself, and Paul taking care of him, taking care of his needs, taking care of himself, together we make 3. We are stronger together versus me looking to Paul to fulfill my needs, like thinking in my head that he needs to do something to make me happy, or he needs to do something to make my life easier. Okay. And him looking to me to fulfill his needs in the same way, that's like -400. Okay. So we need a 1 + 1 = 3. That really is the foundation of strong and thriving relationships. It is the opposite of codependency, which is how both of us were raised in our first marriages, in that I definitely was always looking to my partner to make me happy and to fulfill me. And if only he would do this, then I would feel so doesn't work. And really in this coronavirus, how that translates is I need to be aware of what I need as a woman, as a mom, as a wife, and I need to either tell him and vocalize it and say, hey, I'm going to go take a walk right now because I'm about to scream and lose it with the kids, or or I'm going to go to bed early, or I'm going to, and then I do me and he gets to manage.
I think there's a proactive approach that you can take to this, and a good example is how we start our day. How do we start our day every day?
I don't know.
That was good. You do. So Susie generally goes for a run.
Oh, yeah. I always wake up and I move my body.
You go for a 7-mile run, and I do mindfulness practices of breath work and meditation. Now, we're not doing these things together.
We wake up before the kids.
Yeah.
Intentionally.
We wake up at the same time, but we do our own thing. And by doing my thing that brings me joy and Susie doing her thing that brings her joy, we're not letting the other team play down. We're actually doing the oxygen mask approach.
It is the self-care.
If you're in an aeroplane, the first thing they say is that an oxygen mask falls, put your own mask on first and then help someone else. Yeah. So basically, look after number 1 first. Susie looks after number 1 first, and then that 1 + 1 come together = 3.
And I know because we've had littles and our kids were little. And I actually remember the first time I was in an airplane with my, my oldest son. And I remember them saying that with the mask. And I was like, oh, heck no, I'm putting my sons on first. That was the kind of mother I was at the time. And that showed up in my mothering because I was stressed. I was bitter. I was resentful. I was doing everything for everyone else before I did it for myself. And so now this really is a piece of mindfulness and intentional living, and that we intentionally wake up before the kids. We organize our schedule so that one of us is around to take care and help with the kids' needs, but first looking at ourselves. So that's just the first tool. 1 + 1 = 3. And I guess I would encourage you, if you're like, what the heck, where do I even start, is to think about the mornings. And if you could carve out a little bit of time for yourself. One thing that I used to ask myself is like, what does Susie need? Like, almost as if I was a third person. Like, what would make Susie happy? Because I had gotten so out of that as a mother. And what I'm telling you right here, right now, is that shows up so much better in the relationship. It might be portrayed as selfish in society, but our marriage is stronger than anything I've ever had because I take care of me, he takes care of him, and together we're like, hey.
That's the old saying, to give your best, be at your best. Yeah. So just work out what's good for you. And
yeah. So tool number 2,
as we get
another
through,
one of our favorites, CCC. So the 3 letters.
Very hard with an accent, this one.
This was difficult for an Australian at first, at least for this Australian. Clear, concise communication. Okay, clear, concise communication. Guess what? I cannot read his mind, and he cannot read my mind. I really thought I could. I'm like, oh, I think he's thinking this, or I think he knows that I want, or that, like, I mean, I made up all these stories in my head, and guess what? We can't. We do not yet have that power as humans to read each other's minds. So what do we need to do? We need to use CCC, clear, concise communication. I remember early in our relationship, we had a saying, and it was, when in doubt, shout it out.
Yeah.
And it was like, if you're thinking something, say it, because he can't read my mind and I can't read his. You say it in a kind and gracious way. It's not like, if, I know we're in the middle of COVID, so it's, I can't even think, it's not like if you're chewing or something, I'm like, would you stop chewing? I don't need clear, concise communication with, but with most.
Well, most anything. And a good example is if I tend to be quiet or quieter than normal, and Susie might think, oh, I wonder what I've done. Have I upset Paul? Or is there something in the household that's upsetting, yada, 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 without actually knowing that I'm quiet because I'm at peace and I'm happy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great example, actually, because from my past relationship, that if the other person was quiet, they were mad. They were angry, they were mad. And then I would be afraid of the sort of abusive situation we were in. And so now when he's quiet, Mr. Meditating Man, I very much have to be like, oh, and so I need to shout it out. When in doubt, shout it out. Clear, concise communication. So I will say, hey, Paul, and I'll actually say something like that. I will say,
I notice you're quiet. Is there something, da, 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 da.
Is there something going on? So that is back to tool number 1, 1 + 1 = 3. I'm taking care of me. And so he's here all nice and calm and quiet. And I'll say, I noticed something, you're quiet, is something going on? Or I'll even say words like, I noticed you're quiet and I'm making up this story in my head that you're angry or that something is wrong. And he will then use his clear, concise communication and say, yeah, I just had a weird email from a client and I'm feeling a little icky, or no, you know what? I'm totally zen. Life is good. Or this happens when COVID isn't going on, when, your partner walks in the door. Yeah. They walk in the door and they're just like, and you are like, oh, okay, well, they must be upset because they don't like the smell of dinner. And meanwhile, he's like, okay, I just stubbed my toe on the way in. No matter what, communication helps. If not, no matter what, if you're doing it in a kind and gracious way. So I have plenty of podcasts on nonviolent communication and ways to communicate, and 5 top rules for a great conversation. Definitely direct you over to the Love of Your Life show for those sort of free resources. But for you right now to understand, if you've got something on your heart or you're making up a story in your head, say it out loud. It will be helpful, especially with coronavirus going on.
Endeavor to say it in a way that you'd like to be the recipient of what you're going to say. And that's just a practice in itself. You don't blurt it out to the other person. You say, how would I like to receive this information if they were saying it to me?
Which leads us perfectly, Paul,
Yes.
into our kids even know this one: clog or clear. So
This is actually a fun game.
This is a fun one. So think of a drain and think of what you're about to say to your partner and whether it will clog the drain or clear the drain. You want to elaborate on what that means?
Wow. Well, exactly as I just said, if you're the recipient of what was just said, how would you feel if I said to you, I'm trying to think of an example of a clog. Give me an example.
Yeah, this comes up very often. And sometimes so what will happen in our conversation is I'll be in the middle of something and I'm like, ooh, that was going to be a clog. Maybe even just especially with coronavirus, it's happening more often. So I'll catch myself and know what I was about to say would be a clog. I'm thinking this morning and coffee, and I was looking for my coffee mug, and Paul is very orderly and put things away. And I remember thinking, okay, I freaking need my coffee mug, I have my own excuses. And I didn't say anything because in my head, I was thinking, clog, just let it go. And so no need for clear, concise communication there. I'm sure we can come up with a better example than that.
I'm sure there's many. When you're about to blow that top and you're about to say something, just stop and think for a moment. Is that clearing the relationship, or is that going to clog it and make it worse? Is it going to lead into an argument? Is it going to lead into something where there's discomfort and you start going apart rather than coming together?
I'm so glad you just said that, because that is something that is very important with this coronavirus and very important in marriages and unions in general is are you coming together as a team to get through this, or are you sort of going to your separate corners and just surviving and like hunkering down? And what I encourage you to do is come together as a team. When I'm working with clients, when they're coming together as a team, there is forward progress and great potential. When they're going, apart, well, then that's when we need to look a little more at some more intense tools.
To not use compare and despair. Well, you think you've got it bad, you should see my day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But instead to be able to look at the partner and say, what I'm about to say is not going to bring us together. It's going to make us further apart.
Yeah, it's going to clog.
So just hit pause for a moment, think about it. And is it really necessary to say what I'm about to say? Or can it go on hold?
Well, and that's another great point, is that there's no winning in relationships. To just put the winning aside, put your ego aside, especially when you're in, I don't care how big your house is. Right now it's feeling small. Okay. And so when you're in the situation that we're in now, but really anytime, it's like, why would I say what I'm about to say? Is it so that I think I want, almost, if it's something, I said the carpool was right, like that would be a clog. Why would I have come out and followed up afterwards to say, ooh, I'm right, or.
Well, I told you not to leave that window open.
Yeah.
It would rain.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like,
simple things.
Why don't you just help clean it up and you both look at each other? That's coming together as a team. They're like, oh, okay. I obviously know that he's thinking, oh, Susie left the window open again. But how grateful am I as a partner that he doesn't say anything? And then it's coming together as a team. It's like, okay, this is where you just really like, I told you so. That expression has no place during coronavirus, but really no place with this clog or clear too. And so this is a sort of fun tool to use, in that we're aware of clog and clear, but so are our kids.
Even subtly, if I say something subtle and I'll hear clog.
Yeah, like I'll sometimes be like,
and that will be one of the boys.
Yeah, they'll be like, oh, that was a clog. Or I will be in, it just happened the other night. We were on a walk and I was about to say something and I said clog, and he then was like, what? And I said, no, I can't tell you because it was going to be a clog. And sometimes you sort of want to know, but really you have to trust the other person that there's no reason for that kind of communication. So
moving on.
Mindful. No, you know what I'm going to do before that one? Intentional daily connection.
Oh, yeah.
This is, I wrote, I came up with these
10 tools,
before coronavirus, and this is important no matter what we're doing, but especially with coronavirus, to be intentional and have daily connection with your partner. Okay. I know you guys are busy. I know you have kids. I know you're trying homeschooling. I know you're trying, maybe you're like us and you have a kid home from college. You have a kid who's high school. There's a lot going on. There's always a lot going on. And when we start at the beginning with sort of the oxygen mask and you taking care of yourself. So you're at the top of that self-care triangle. Right after you is your significant other. Okay, I know that's not something I believed for a while. Here comes another wonderful one of my diagrams. But so
See, I could have said a clone.
Yeah, that would be, thank you. So he did it clear.
You're artistic.
So here I am at the top, Susie, okay, right up here. So nice that there's nothing to write on. So Susie is up here, and then Paul is right underneath her in this line. And then, shockingly, underneath that are the kids. Okay, and then underneath that is family, friends, job, all that. You know what we normally do?
Turn it up. Yeah.
Flip it upside down. And then where's mom? Like, oh my gosh, she's on the floor. Okay, you're just nowhere there. Or where's dad? All right, and so we need to get it back here. And it's you taking care of you, and then very next is him, okay, or her.
And again, these practices can be done mindfully, and the hierarchical theory of needs is true. And as Susie said, most times you're flipped upside down. Mm-hmm. It's 11 o'clock at night by the time mum gets her time, and it's no way to be day in, day out. And
no, you feel
as a male, I even know that that's not possible. Yeah. You can't survive like that.
Mm-mm.
Or if it's reversed, sometimes there are men in the house that are predominantly doing most of what goes on, and therefore their needs matter too. So
yeah, it is just, so it is, again, back to 1 + 1 = 3. Like, you take care of you, he takes care of him. I know when I'm taking care of myself, I am not getting to 9 o'clock anymore and being like, oh my gosh, what have I done for Susie during the day? Because Susie is interwoven into the day. Okay, I am a part of the day, and then I'm enjoying my life so much more.
And so does your partner, because can you imagine what it's like to get to the bed or to the time of night when you're going to bed and your partner's pissy and worn out?
Yeah, not fun.
Not fun at all.
No.
Well, it's not fun for you. It's not fun for your partner.
No.
And therefore, to be at your best, you give your best. Do the clear, concise communication. Put the pyramid up the top.
Yes. And then this tool, intentional daily, oh, sorry, I'll see a chat in a second. Intentional daily connection. You guys can put any questions in the chat and we'll get to those at the end. Intentional daily connection means at some point during the day that you intentionally connect with your spouse, okay? So at some point, if it's not coronavirus, you send a text and you just say, hey, I'm thinking of you. Or, if it is coronavirus, one of the things we've been doing is we're both working full time and have the kids, but we've been writing down our schedule on the fridge. So we're aware of each other's schedule. And then we've been writing down when our schedules overlap for lunch. So we're saying lunch, or and we're just being intentional about that. And sometimes I'll write like half a lunch because I know that we have like 15 minutes that overlap, or whatever.
And the second one is after dinner. I think someone's coming in.
Yeah.
After dinner, hello, late arrival. We'll intentionally take time to go for a walk around the block.
Yes, every single night. In fact, whether rain or shine.
No, and it's just the two.
Yeah.
And we go for a walk and we talk about the day, and we talk about each other's day and share that moment.
Those are chats that we'll get to in a minute. Yeah, you guys put any questions you have in there, and we're recording this, and I guess we're going to share it later on Mona if you came in late. But so intentional daily connection, make it small. This is not to overwhelm you, but any sort of you remembering, you're at the top of this beautiful diagram, and then there's that partner. And so it's like, oh, right, we're in this for some reason together. And so, let me see how I connect. And if it's, if your schedules are not working, that it's lunch, or it can just be like, we also in the morning will pause and just hug and connect heart to heart, and just 3 seconds really feels good. 3 seconds might feel a long time if like kids are tugging at your legs. I know it, but try it, and it will just, it sort of lower, it does lower your cortisol. Absolutely. It connects you to this other human being. It reminds you of like, okay, we're in this together. We're a team. So you come together intentionally at some point during your day, okay? You have 24 hours. You can find some time to intentionally connect. And why? Because you both will feel better. Okay. I know for busy moms or busy dads that sometimes you need that why, that you're like, why the heck would I do this? It will pay off for you at the top of that triangle.
Can I just jump in
Mhm.
just for a second while we're doing this? Because we're talking about partnerships and teamwork and coming together. And if you feel that you're in a relationship where that's not happening, reach out, because we've got tools that enable you to be able to work around that as well. And you can do that on your website or mine. I
Mhm.
assume there's a link there somewhere. So
Mhm.
yeah, just reach out, and there are tools available that enable you to mindfully and gently approach your partner in a way that will be proactive, and it'll work. It will work.
Yeah,
Small steps.
we are both discovering through our sessions with clients during this time and our own experience that the coronavirus it is highlighting. It's like putting a
Yeah.
big magnifying glass on our life. And what that means is it's highlighting the strengths and the wonderful pieces of your life. It's also highlighting the things that are not working and maybe the
What's it all mean?
places where there is drama over here. And so what Paul is saying is, if you're having this, like, I mean, I also sort of feel like we've been, we get so busy in life and you're going, and now we've stripped a lot of that away. And some of us are sort of coming up for air and we're like, oh my gosh, shit, like, how, okay, I'm married to this person. I've been married to them for 18, how many years? And wow, look at the state of our marriage. And I'm telling you that if you're in an abusive relationship, reach out to us. We'll get you some help. These tools are not for you. Okay. But if you're sort of finding that like, wow, oh my gosh, try one of these tools, because as I said in my first wonderful diagram that looks like
No,
whatever.
that was a close.
One person.
It looks like one of those balloon dogs.
I know. One person can make changes that changes that other relationship. It really can. It's not, yeah. So to just keep moving forward with that. So intentional daily connection with the person. The other thing that goes along with that, if you're sort of finding yourself in this like, oh gee, okay, what's happened? Another tool that I like to use, I use it at the beginning of every month, is what I call brainstorm love. Okay. I think I've told Paul what I do. At the beginning of every month, I have a page on my bedside in my journal, and I write 50 things that I love about Paul. 50 things. Okay. I was talking to a client today and she said that she was trying to write 20 and she came up with 2. And so I understand if you're anywhere on that journey. Okay. This is about opening your mind. What we usually do in these long-standing relationships is we can list off very possibly 20 things that we don't like about the person or that irritate us, that are bugging us, about the way they leave their socks so-and-so, or the way they, put their, I'm thinking of things that probably bug you about me, like coffee mug. And what we look for are like where we direct our mind, it'll find more evidence of that. And so what I'm saying to you is, during COVID or anytime, you do not want to direct your mind to look for things that you don't like about the person you've chosen to spend your life with. So why not direct your mind to look for the things that you love about him? And it doesn't have to be these grand, elaborate things that you brainstorm on, although I do have those on my list too. But I also have things like, I love Paul's wrist. I have all sorts, and I try to come up with different things every month. But the 50 is a lot. And the point is you want your brain to go and look for just like, what are those things? And oh my gosh, right. I love how, like, when I'm coming wet from running, he'll have a towel for me. Or it can be silly things, and it can be the bigger things too. But to be directing your mind in a way that helps your relationship instead of directing your mind in a way that hurts your relationship.
I do a similar practice, and I do it in small steps. It's called the 9-17 principle. And especially now during COVID-19, at 9:17 a.m., I pause and I think of 5 things that make me shine when I think of you. And it can be things like the way you giggle then, or it can be things like Susie's eyes sparkle when she sees carrots and apples.
Especially when they're in the house.
Yeah, there can be a number of simple things, and there can be more grandiose things, but 5 things at 9:17 each morning. So we can do them in small steps, or you can do them in the manner in which you share.
And if you're at the place where you're just like, oh my gosh, like my client this morning who couldn't think of 2, that's okay. Start with 1. Okay, just start somewhere and see if you're like, oh, right, okay. Or even reminders of like, what did you used
I was
to
going
like
to say,
about
start
him?
at the beginning.
Yeah.
What was that
Like, what
first
did you used
thing
to
that
like?
you went, oh my gosh, I love the way she or he,
Yeah.
and finish
What
that
was it?
sentence. What was it?
Yeah.
And has that changed? Okay, well,
Mhm.
we all change over life,
Right.
but just start with that one point and focus on that. And as Susie said, what you focus on, you'll find.
Yeah.
And
What
then-
you focus on expands.
and
Your
then just
brain
expand.
is a supercomputer. So where you direct it, it will find information for that. So if you ask it, like, what are the ways that I love my partner, it will look for evidence for that. And if you direct it to what are the ways that my partner bugs the living out of me, it's going to find evidence of that. And my question to you is, which do you want to find evidence for? You're in charge of that supercomputer. So let's go for that. Now I want to move on. So we were talking about 1 + 1 = 3, clear, concise communication, intentional daily connection, brainstorming love, clogging or clearing, and then mindful technology is another one to be mindful of. I've heard some people talk about the phone as being the mistress in the room, or I don't know what the equivalent would be for the woman, but to be aware of the time and attention that you are giving to the phone.
Or to the computer, or to the laptop, or to whatever it is that you're using. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any tech.
Yeah, any sort of tech. So I use an acronym called TIME, TIME. I think that's what it's called, acronym. It's late at night. But TIME, and the T stands for time. So before you pick up your phone, to bring some sort of attention to what are you picking up your phone for? Like, how much time do you want to spend on your phone or your computer or your iPad? I mean, we have so many ways of tech. It can be your TV too. So how much time do you want to be spending on it? Okay. So both of us have business that are on social media. So I'll think, okay, I'm going to get on Instagram and I'm going to spend 10 minutes on it. Okay. So that's what I'm talking about with time. Then I want you to be intentional. What are you doing with your phone? Our phones are wired to get us to react. And so, you're picking it up when you're bored or stressed or whatever the emotion is that you're feeling in COVID. There are lots of them. To be intentional before you pick it up, to actually say to yourself, what am I picking up my phone for? Is it just sort of this like knee-jerk reaction?
If it's to go scrolling through Facebook or through Instagram, it's not going to bring you any joy. I'm not going to show you.
Right. Or if
it
that
does,
is like your
then
downtime,
put intentional time.
Well, what I would like you to do is after you're on Instagram or Facebook, ask yourself how you feel. Check in with yourself. Because if you're like, yeah, I feel great. That was awesome. Great. Okay. If you're like, oh my God, I feel like I just waded through sludge. Well, then that's something to be, but whatever you're doing, to have some sort of intention. So T is time. It's thinking, okay, I'm going to do 10 minutes on here. Intention, I'm going to get on Instagram. M is for mindfulness, or so you're like aware of what you're doing on there. For me, I'm like, okay, I'm getting on Instagram to check my account to see if anyone got into my chat box or whatever. And then the E is something I like, you just sort of address there. It's enriching or enrichment. And I do think there is a time for fun on the phone and fun on that. But if you're talking about choosing the time over your spouse, and you're thinking, okay, I have, half an hour and I'm going to, do my time, then I would say that your phone time needs to be something that's enriching for you, not just that like flicking through Facebook or Instagram, because you have a human right here. We have lots of humans.
Let's hit pause there for a moment as well, folks, because if you're in a relationship and it's a long-standing relationship and you're thinking, yeah, how can I enrich this relationship? We're locked together and we've had enough. Well, guess what? There are ways to do it. And again, on the website, there are mindful practices that you can share with your partner that can lead to all sorts of things. Trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fun. They're good.
Yeah.
If you haven't tried something, you don't know something, and now's the time to try a new practice.
Lots of new fun things. And so we've provided, I'm going to get to the chat box there. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask us. But we've provided tools with a starting point for you. And these are not meant to overwhelm you and that you need to do all of these. Okay. These are to maybe one struck you and resonated with you. And I'd say, hey, yeah, bring that into your attention tomorrow. The first step in changing anything is awareness. And so being aware maybe of where you're clogging and clearing, or where you're not using clear, concise communication. That's something we both have said in this marriage. We're like, enough of the games, no more games. Like,
Hmm.
You know, where do you want to go to lunch? I'll friggin' tell you. Okay. I'm not gonna, oh, where do you want to go? I have an opinion. Okay. So it's this, you know, whichever tool sort of spoke to you, the brainstorming love, the Clogger Clear, mindful technology, intentional daily connect, any of them is going to make a difference. And then yes, we are here as supporters of you. We are passionate about this because of our past experiences. This is something
And our future potentials.
yeah, just well, that is another thing that I mentioned in the podcast about believe, and really do believe that
Anything is possible.
anything, everything is possible. I
That's
have
right.
a mantra that I say to myself every single week. I write out certain ones, and mine that I am in a thriving and supportive relationship that just keeps getting better. And beliefs are thoughts that you tell yourself over and over again. Okay, so I encourage you to pay attention to the thoughts that you're telling yourself about your relationship, and whether that's what you want to continue telling yourself over and over again to become a belief. Okay. And so, you know, why not choose something that's awesome?
On the flip side, if there is a part of you that's sitting there shaking your head saying, yeah, but you don't understand what sort of relationship I'm in, that's impossible, you're the sort of person I want to talk to.
Yeah.
Because there are hundreds of practices that I share and that Susie shares. These are only 5. There are hundreds of practices that we can share with you that will change your life for the better. And the place to start is with yourself. You cannot change your partner, but you can change what you do and how you act. And that will then, what are we up to over here? Sorry.
I'm putting in your podcast, your
Email, website. Okay.
Yeah.
On that website there, it's my name. So it's paulpettit.com. That's easy. If you want to just click onto paulpettit.com, there's actually a link to a 15-minute consultation, which is free at the moment. With COVID the way it is, there's a necessity for free opportunities for people just to talk about what's going on in your life, and then you can be directed into a way that will help you to change you, and that will change your relationship.
Okay, so I want to get to some of these questions because I know they are the questions that I have had and that I have felt, and that many of you are probably feeling. So someone wrote, and I'll keep you anonymous, how do you figure out how to take care of yourself? Like, how do you know what feeds you, and how can you overcome resentment from inequities and responsibilities? So first, I'm going to address the first part of that question. How do you figure out how to take care of yourself, or what feeds you? And this is very, very common, especially with women. We are taught from a young age to be quiet, to be nice, to not speak up, to not, don't rock the boat. I mean, they've done studies that if they ask a group of kids when they're 10, boys and girls, what they want to do, if they want to go to the park or the pool, all the kids will answer. Like, they'll give their answers. If they ask kids, boys and girls, age 13, if they want to go to the park or the pool, the boys will still answer, and the girls will look to the boys or look to each other. They will not speak up themselves. We are taught from a young age to look externally for what we should be doing. Okay. And so if you're at your age now and you're like, I don't know what I like, I don't know how to care for myself. Sometimes clients know more what they don't like. Okay, so that's a place to start. Like, what don't you like to do?
Yeah.
You could take a list of that. Like, you don't like folding laundry, you don't like going to book club, you don't like, some of these pieces, you actually, how you feel after you do these things. Once we get out again, it's good to check in with yourself. I know I told myself a lot of times as a mother things that I should do. I call that stop shoulding on yourself. So one of the things I told myself I should do was a lot of things to do with the PTA at my kids' school. I was the last person that should have been involved. I had a lot of shoulding on myself on a lot of things, guys. And so maybe you're more aware of what you don't want, and to pay attention to that, and then to start opening up your mind in little ways for what you do want. So little decisions, and again, maybe asking yourself in the third person, like I was doing, like, what does Susie want? And
it'll be in here.
It's in there.
If you calm your vagal vagus nerve, if you calm yourself enough, do some breathing and just think, what would bring me joy?
Yeah.
Just open answer. Just what would bring me joy?
Yeah. Again, what your mind looks for, you will find. One thing I would encourage you not to say is, I don't know. I don't know is I have lots of boys in our house, okay, 5 of them, and we allow a fair amount of language. What I do not allow is for them to say, I don't know, because I don't know is a roadblock for your brain. The second you say, I don't know, the brain stops looking for answers for that. So if I'm asking you, what do you like? What does fill you up? And you hear your brain go, I don't know. I'd like you to start to try to retrain that. Okay. As we say, we're personal trainers for your mind. Okay. So start to try to retrain and say, you know what? I'm going to think about it. That's more open. And then your brain goes to look for thinking, like, what do you like? So even if, right now you're home with your kids all the time, there are certain things that you like doing and certain things you don't like doing. I know I loved doing puzzles with my kids. I loved doing Legos with my kids. I did not like Play-Doh. It drove me insane. I did not like so it's starting to look at those things. And now I still like doing puzzles. So starting to just being aware of what you're doing in terms of opening.
And it can be simple improvements that you would like to see in yourself. I would like to feel better about myself. And I think if I do X, Y, or Z, that will help. Mm-hmm. That's a place to start. So it might be reading, writing, running, walking, gardening, painting.
And again, we understand you can have some small kids around. And I am telling you, and this actually feeds into the second part of your question and the next question coming up, that if you're not doing these little things, you are going to feel resentment, okay? Resentment is not using CCC, not using clear, concise communication. You have needs and it's just building up. It's like a rising tide, and then it gets to a certain point and then you explode and it's like, oh my gosh, what just happened? Okay. So the second part of this question is, how can you overcome resentment from inequities in responsibilities? What I would like to say is, have you spoken up? Have you spoken up about the inequities in responsibilities? Okay. Because if that's a thought that you're thinking, that there are inequities in responsibilities. And just by holding on to that thought, that feels icky. Okay. That feels like, you're thinking,
Can I
things
give
are unequal
a small
here.
example?
Yeah.
For example, I could be sitting here and Susie could be walking around doing things, picking them up, putting them away, whatever, and I'm reading my book. And she could be thinking, oh my gosh, that's just, how unfair. I'm doing all this and Paul's not doing anything. But if I don't know that she wants assistance, how do I know she wants assistance? And vice versa. If Susie doesn't know I want a hand down in the basement with something while I'm doing it, I could be down there getting pissy that I'm doing this thing, and it's okay for her to be sitting up here. But if she doesn't know, if I don't ask, then she doesn't know.
Well, and this is also back to 1 + 1 = 3, is that I have to trust that Paul will take care of him and speak up when he needs to. So Paul does do all the laundry in our house. And that was very uncomfortable for me at first, because I used to do all the laundry and I did not enjoy it. And now him doing it, he like finds it some mindful experience. So anyhow, the point is that I will say to him from time to time, hey, like if this gets to be something you don't like, you will tell me. And so I have to trust that he's going to say something. What I am thinking from this question is that you are not speaking up with what you're doing, and that there are inequalities. And
so think of it as a partnership, and if you look at it as a business, go back to basics. And if I'm in a business partnership, my role would be XYZ, my partner's role would be XYZ, and they should balance. Now, if you haven't even sat down with your partner and said, hey, it's COVID-19, we're in lockdown, how about we draw up a list of what needs to be done around the house? What of the 10 things would you prefer to do? Mm-hmm. There's a good place to start.
That is, so I also understand how right now you might listen into your brain, okay? And listen if it's like, that won't work for me, or that won't. So again, what you tell yourself, you will find. So maybe to just be like, okay, well, how could I maybe do that on a small scale? And
yes.
And what I would say is, even start with you. You don't have to involve the other person at first. And I've had people write down everything they do in the day. Okay, write down everything you do. There's a lot, I know, or in the week. Like, it's a lot. And then of that, what are the main things that bug you? Because it's not going to be that whole list, but since you're doing the whole list, it's going to feel like this overwhelming, crushing thing. And so to think of, okay, so these 6 things really bug you, then to bring that to your spouse and to say, or to your partner, and to say, hey, these are the things you could do that. Or yes, absolutely. At some time, I would like you to set a deadline of this weekend, by the end of this weekend, to find a time to ask your partner. I have a podcast on 5 pieces of difficult conversation. So this might be a difficult conversation for you, but the first piece of it is to find a time that works for both of you and you both are calm. So that is not after you have, taking care of the kids all day. And I'm seeing from the next question, your husband's played golf for 5 hours and you've emptied the dishwasher and you've done this and you've done this. And then it's like, hey, yeah, that's not when you do it. Okay?
You're not coming from a cool
That's
place.
not helpful. That's what I call landing in the land of BS, bitter and sour. Okay. You're just like, oh, I've done that. I can remember my past relationship, my spouse asking, do you want me to empty the dishwasher? And I'd be like, no, I've got it. And then I would just like slam things around, that's when that you are not being honest with yourself and clear, concise communication. It is part of this, like I was out for Martyr of the Year. I think I probably won it 4 years running. I definitely was looking for that, but look at me, my life is so tough. And so some of this, I have another podcast just recently on radical responsibility, is taking responsibility. I didn't ask my partner for help. I didn't ask my first husband. Like he would say, do you want help with the dishwasher? I'd be like, no. And then go up to bed like, oh my gosh, life is so unfair. So part of it is taking responsibility for yourself and then meeting them there. This next question is interesting.
Hit pause on that just for a moment, because the place to start is right now, and it can be anywhere. Just start somewhere, yeah? And start by looking at the tools that are on the website or reaching out and getting some friendly advice on how to move forward. Just start somewhere.
Okay, so she says, I have spoken up and attempted to say these are responsibilities for running a house and taking care of a family, but meet resistance or am told that I think she's saying that I am doing unnecessary or overthinking things. And I guess my question to you, if I was working one-on-one, is what are the things that are unnecessary and overthinking? Because they're, to be honest about that, overthinking is something that I also was a master at. But in terms of, it sounds like you're bringing it up. We all have certain dances that we do in relationships. And when you start to shift and you start to bring things up in a calm, so remember the CCC, the first word is calm. Okay. So that does not include like, okay, calm, concise communication. You're bringing it up. You're expressing what you would like. Okay. If you're met with resistance, that's pretty much understandable, because it's
normal. You're telling
like,
someone that they're not meeting the challenge. Yeah?
But all along, if all along I was bringing you dinner and then I was cleaning up from dinner and then I was putting dinner away and then I was emptying the dishwasher. If one day I was like, hey, now I'd like you to clean up after dinner, and I'd like you'd be like, what happened to the hotel I was living in? I mean, there would be some resistance. And so first, to sort of expect that, but then that doesn't mean it's done. I often say it's not a one and done. Okay. You have many conversations. You keep bringing it up. I would look at how you're bringing it up. And then I would look at, again, maybe if you can make that list and think of what are the priorities for you. I know for me, I like to have a swept floor and I like to have clean counters. And I know for Paul, he likes to have a clean sink. And these are the things, like if the floor isn't clean, he's not going to be irked about it. You know what? That's another tool that we have.
I would never notice.
Right. He doesn't notice. And if the sink is full, I don't really notice. And so it's these recognizing, I guess, when you're saying like what is unnecessary, that's an opinion. Like to me, he might think it's unnecessary to sweep the floor. I'm like, no, that's pretty freaking necessary. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to take ownership of it. We also have the tool of 1 to 10.
Oh yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much does it annoy you as opposed to your partner? For example, just use the floor as an example.
Yeah.
A clean floor is, scale of 1 to 10 is an 8 to Susie. 8 being it's fairly important, 8 out of 10.
Like it really bugs me.
And to me, it's like a 2. It doesn't really worry me. So that's just an indication of where the imbalance might be. But I think this is kind of a one-on-one thing that it's hard to be generic about. So.
And so I'm going to go to this next one, which is my husband's hobby is golf, which has not really been affected by coronavirus.
Mhm.
Sorry. He asks/wants to golf at least once a week. That's 5 or so hours off each week doing one of his hobbies. I don't have a hobby like that. I feel like I don't really have any hobbies, but that's another issue. And I have not had 5 hours off in a long time. There's a lot of resentment. There was before and even more now. I recognize he's doing his own self-care when he golfs, but it's a huge burden on me. What is a good way to deal with the situation so we are each fulfilled?
Wow. So starting from the place of victim there is a difficult place to start. So we're going to say, what's the place to start is, again, has it been raised? Yeah.
Yeah, and
Where
I
do we
get it.
start?
I get it.
Yeah.
Like going to play golf, you're sort of like, I mean, I can hear you. You're saying it's time off, it's 5 hours, and then you're having your own, like, but I don't have any hobbies. Like, what would you go do for 5 hours? I mean, I hear you. This is back to that 1 + 1 = 3 and being a team. Okay. And so him going to play golf, it's like, okay, he needs to go fulfill that. He needs to, that's something that he does to go fill his cup and to feel better so that he comes back, he can be this dad. And then I think for you, it's to try to think of something that would be helpful for
What is
you
something that you
to
could
try
do?
to, yeah, you're saying you haven't had 5 hours off in a long time. I would ask, have you asked? Okay. And to start small, this is where I know Mother's Day is coming up this weekend, and some of us go like gangbusters. We probably won't this year because where are we going to go? But it's like that one day, everything, it's like, okay, I've done it all, and now it'll last till next year. You need to spread it out more. And so I was talking to a woman today, and I was just saying, go take 15 minutes and go walk, 5 minutes down the block to a park bench and lie flat on your back and just count 10 breaths and come back. And I promise you'll feel better. But I think for this woman, I'm going to say, I would encourage you to ask yourself, like, okay, I'm going to start thinking about what I like. And on one hand, and on the other hand, I'm going to start or stop thinking sort of that he's taking time off or he's doing something to you by playing golf. I know that's really hard. I think that's a big jump, and this is
a bridge talk,
well, and this is a group atmosphere, and that's something that we would probably spend most of a session on. But to start, I would really dive into my Love Your Life Show podcast, and you can text me or Paul about specific episodes that will help you sort of get to a little bit more freedom with that, because I get that. And you're saying it's a huge burden on you. And it is when you're thinking like that. I totally understand. Totally understand. And there is, I see ease in your future, sort of a freedom and a peace, so that you're not feeling that built up resentment that I know was like a common.
And a small starting tool would be, okay, if I were to have 1 hour, what would I do if I were to have 1 hour? And just journal that out. I would like to do this for 1 hour. And there's a good starting spot.
Yeah, I would, or even 5 minutes. Like, what do you, and that's something, I know a lot of moms sometimes we're like, okay, well, we'll have, what's your break? Well, I'll have wine or I'll eat. And then you feel like crud about yourself because whatever. That's a whole other issue too. But to start to open your mind to think of what feels like self-care, not self-sabotage. What kind of things can you do that you like? Maybe think back to what you did before you were married. All of these are sort of individual questions. How do you handle a partner who uses work as a trump card for everything else? Especially now when we both work full-time with kids to care for. It's very frustrating when my partner puts his work above family or my own full-time job. That's a conversation that needs to be had, okay? Because that's not okay. There are two of you in the house as a team, and he's not being a team player. And so very frankly, I would say to him, I would listen to my podcast on how to have a difficult conversation. So just Google how to have a difficult conversation, Susie Pettit, and it should come up, or email me and I'll get you the link tomorrow. And I would say, I'd like to have a conversation with you, and you need to set a time, and you need to have an intent of how are we going to split this up more? And you can look at your week coming up, because this isn't going away. Okay. I like to talk to people that we're sort of approaching this like a blizzard, like we'll just get through, but we're in this, guys. Okay. And so you need to find a plan that is workable for you. And just because he has work, it doesn't matter the salary. You both have work. Okay. And you say you have a full-time job too, but I also would say that if he has a full-time salary job and the other person has a full-time momming job, that's still work, and you need to come together. Okay. And that's the team.
He may very well be using this as a form of buffering. If we overdo anything, it's to stop our thoughts. And obviously, during this period, he may be feeling the anxiety and the stress of uncertainty that we all feel. And this could be the way that he's avoiding the thoughts. He's overworking, and saying, I'm
he
too
needs
busy.
to talk to a male life coach. But so we're running low on time. And so I want to get to this next question too. But I do want to say, for the person whose spouse, or if any of you are having the spouse using it as a trump card, to please, it's time to have a conversation and to, to get calm in yourself, and to maybe write down your notes on paper, or sometimes it's helpful to me to sort of rehearse it in a mirror before a big conversation, but to know that that conversation needs to be had. And you might be feeling some nervousness before, if that's not what you normally do, but there will always be ease on the other side. Okay. Even if he's not agreeing with you, you spoke your truth. You need to speak from your heart what's going on there in a kind way. This one, my partner and I are working from home. My partner's been sleeping a lot, watching TV, etc., and not engaging much with our family. Does this sound like depression or avoidance? So we're not going to diagnose that, but what I am going to say is, what you aren't saying in this message, he's been sleeping a lot, watching TV, etc., and not engaging much with the family. So that's his behavior. How is that impacting your family? And is that is it fine? Are you just like, okay, dad's in the basement, doesn't really matter, and the kids aren't, or are you wanting something to be different? Because if you're wanting something to be different, then again, it's that have a conversation. You guys are a team. You are coming together.
I would encourage him to reach out.
Yeah, that's like what Paul does and is an expert
Just reach
at.
out.
And it really is. This is a time, we're going to finish up here, but this is a time when our normal ways of we call it buffering, but dealing with life, like with our strong emotions.
We suppress, depress, repress. We try and get away.
Yeah. So whether it's, over golfing, over anything, over shopping, over drinking, over eating,
overworking, over sleeping,
overworking is a big one. Okay. Like spending a lot of time. Those have been stripped away. All right. For the most part, the drinking and the eating are still here. And that's when we're saying it's magnifying that. All right. But in terms of if the person is normally overworking and over, what we're finding is that now these people are home and they might have that sort of what I was talking about before, like they're sort of coming up for air and they're like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm at work working so hard for this family that I don't even know. And this, I don't even we're seeing.
They're out of their comfort zone.
Right. And we're seeing our kids with behaviors that were like, oh my gosh, that's my kid. Oh, and then our stress and how are we reacting to that? Are we yelling? Are we?
And the reverse can be said for the stay-at-home person. The stay-at-home person isn't used to their spouse being around 24/7.
Oh my God! Yeah.
All of a sudden, your home is going from part-time full to full-time full.
Yeah.
The kids are home from school. The partner's home from work. Yeah.
So there are lots of bonuses.
There's a lot of energy going on, folks.
And there are lots of, you are not alone in the sort of struggle that you're feeling. And that is why we wanted to come on tonight and provide this free resource and also direct you towards paulpettit.com. That's Pettit with 2 T's, or the Love Your Life show on iTunes, or Spotify, anything really. Because you are going to find some great resources there. And, it looks like this. If you see it, you can't really see that. The Love Your Life show.
I think it'll be back to front.
Yeah. Anyhow, we are sending big support out to you guys, and you're not alone. Okay. And I do encourage you to journey on and have these conversations, because they're not going to go away. All right. So what you're seeing now at home is it's like your regular life is magnified. And it's that, so the joys are magnified, but also the struggles are magnified. And so I encourage you to take this time and address them. Okay.
Find the right tools for the job.
Find the right tools.
Don't just come
not yelling.
Just find the right tools for the job, like a good craftsman.
One of the things that we did early on in our relationship is I remember thinking, if there was a cross in the road, I was like, okay, do I do the old way or the new way? And so one thing you could think is and I do this with parenting too, is I'm like, okay, what do I normally do?
Do
Well,
the
that
opposite.
hasn't been working.
Do
So
the
let's do
opposite.
the opposite. Like, honestly, it's like, well, I've been doing that and I did that over and over and over again. Well, that's the definition of insanity, expecting a different result. So do something different. Okay, guys.
Thanks for
Big
sharing
hugs
time.
to you all. Thanks for sharing time, and go out and get hold of these resources and take care of you.